Sure. All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order of the regular Leominster School Committee on Tuesday, January 21st. Can everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which is behind me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To read our school committee statement. The committee represents the needs of all Leominster Public School students and places their interests above all others. We will exercise leadership, adhere to our protocols, and base our decision upon a reasoned assessment of all available information. We will advocate for each of our schools and support high-quality public education in Leominster. I want to just acknowledge that we have 3 new members and welcome you to the committee, so thank you. And at this point, we're going to open up our public forum. If anybody would like to address the committee, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Would anybody like to address the committee? Please come forward. And one final last time, if anybody would like to address the committee, please come forward. Having no one come forward, we're going to close the open forum part of our program. We're going to move on to communications, Superintendent. There are no communications this evening? Okay. We're going to, it's my understanding that we have a student report. If the student would like to come up to the microphone, please, and give the student report at this time. Welcome. And you can pull that microphone closer to you so they can hear you.
So my name is Sasha Nario and this is Jasmine Del Carmo. We're very excited to present to you guys this evening. So there's a lot going on at Leominster High School and the Center of Technical Education Innovation, CTI. So we just finished semester 1 midterms last week, and then we're starting semester 2 tomorrow, and report cards are coming out next week. We also have 4 early college classes beginning tomorrow. We have Intro to Sociology, Human Growth and Development, and then Intro to Marketing and College Writing 2. These classes are open to juniors and seniors. Theater news, we have Lord of the Flies is beginning to rehearse for the spring theater performance.
And to add, Sophia Hull participated in the Central Massachusetts District Chorus at the Massachusetts Educator Association Festival this past Saturday at Mechanics Hall. Regarding athletics, all teams are in the midst of their season. Boys basketball starting off at a great start, and boys and girls basketball are playing this evening. Boys and girls hockey are also playing very well. Wrestling competing against some great teams all over the state, and boys and girls indoor track have been very busy with their track meets. MCAS retakes are for bio is in February, and they're prepping for them this month. Faculty meeting is taking place tomorrow, and curriculum mapping and building will take place then. Also today, Daniel Miller from Fox 25 News came to speak to some students, and it seemed to have a very large impact on them as well.
And what did they speak about?
I wasn't there at the assembly, but from my friends, they said that he spoke.
It was motivational speaking. That he talked about how being on the Fox 25 News, like how his life has been as well. Like he gets noticed in the streets. That's what he talked about.
Right.
I was there. It was inspirational. He spoke about perseverance, making good choices, and living your true self. And students were glued to him. And at one point, he pulled out his 2 Emmy Awards that he won here in Boston, and he passed them out. And so, I just have to say, I have several pictures of my own. But you could see the students, it went throughout the auditorium, and they were taking selfies and group pictures, and at the end, he really had a group that just stayed and spoke with him.
Nice.
So he did a really nice job, so we want to thank him.
Great. Excellent. Thank you. Anything else? You ladies did a wonderful job. Thank you for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Good job. Superintendent Report?
Sure, well, I also want to thank everybody. It's nice to have some new voices, new faces, new energy, and especially some new ideas, so welcome. And if you listen to our high school students, any day that you get bored, we have something going on. It's 7 days a week right now up here, so any chance that you can come out and be a part of these activities, please do so. As our students said, quarter 3 began this week. So we're at the halfway mark, and I like to keep pushing forward. There's so much coming up with spring. For our senior parents, know we're under 5 months towards graduation, and the last day of school now has been moved to June 17th. So we get many phone calls about the last day of school. It is definitely June 17th. This weekend, on Saturday, Samoset 8th grader and student council president Blessing Wisdom Gold made a trek to the State House to take part of launch day for Project 351. This is a non-profit student ambassador program that promotes leadership throughout the Commonwealth. Project 351 has been in existence for 9 years under Governor Patrick. After launch day, which was this past Saturday, the ambassadors are tasked with a service project, which Blessing will be discussing with us soon, and then reconvening in May for another celebration before working on a fall service project. Blessing was nominated by a social studies teacher at Samoset for this prestigious program that leads students on a 12-month journey of leadership in their community, their school, and the state. Each student has to write a speech describing their ideas for a better world and how it coincides with their individual goals. Blessing's speech was so noteworthy, it was chosen to be given by her entire group in attendance, including Governor Patrick, Lieutenant Governor Polito, and WBZ TV anchor Lisa Hughes, along with 350 of her peers. Blessing's goal someday is to be the President of the United States, which I'm sure she will do, and in the next 25 to 30 years, make sure that we vote for her. This is a student that 4 years ago in elementary school wrote to Barack Obama and received a personal response. She couldn't be here this evening, but she was a star of the show in Boston this weekend, so we're very proud of her. And this opportunity was wonderful. So we will be honoring her moving forward.
That's awesome.
So thank you.
Nothing else?
No.
Okay, so we have some presentations today. We have the MWCC Portrait of a Graduate, Mount Wachusett Community College.
Yes, we have a
If you
team.
folks-
Lauren Mountain, I think you're going to be on our staff soon. We see so much of you.
Lucky. Hi, everyone. Happy to have Lauren here with us. She's been working with us on a number of things for many, many years, even though she's very young. So her title is Director of United Way Youth Venture, but at Mount Wachusett she's taken on a number of things in the K-12 partnership, and she's here tonight to talk about a grant opportunity that we're very excited about.
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction, and nice to see all of you this evening. So we were recently very excited to win an award from the Barr Foundation, which is a New England-based charitable organization that's given out over $2 billion in New England. We were chosen one of 14 organizations across New England to receive this Portrait of a Graduate grant. Essentially, the grant is $250,000. It's a partnership between Mount Wachusett Community College Early College Programming as well as Leominster High School, CTEI, LCE, Fitchburg High School, Murdoch High School in Winchendon, and Gardner High School. So we've got the three major urban schools in North Central Mass and one of the other really high need schools in our region. So this 5-way partnership is going to be working together very closely over the next year to determine what the portrait of a graduate should be. So to break that down a little bit, when we look at how are we doing? Students are with us from cradle through graduation. Are they ready to be successful in college, in their career, and as community members? And the truth is, a lot of us really just don't know. We hope that we're doing the right things, but many of you already know, because you're on the school committee, their students are up against a lot of other factors in their life. So this is really a process for us to learn how we can better serve them. And the way we do that is by engaging stakeholder groups. So we identified 9 different types of stakeholders that we want to involve in this process over the course of the year to help us define what are the gaps in those students being ready for success after high school. For us to do this, we need help from the school committees and some of the other groups. So if I were to name them, the first is obviously current students and alumni. So really we're looking at a lot of the Leominster population. You've gone through the Leominster system, so we need to hear from those individuals. Parents and family members, K through 12 educators, staff members, people that work with students on a daily basis, higher ed. We need to look at employers. We need to talk with workforce experts. We need to talk with people that provide youth and social and emotional support services to students. And we need to look and talk to the community as a whole. In doing that, we hope to really uncover what are the gaps in readiness, but more importantly, what are our strengths as a community? So what are the things that we're doing really well? And in order to do that, we need to ask people and have them help us to define what does success look like. So the steps we'll be taking will include, over the next 3 to 4 months, really intensive outreach and engagement. That's going to look like listening sessions. So Paula had some really successful community listening sessions in the springtime that went along with the strategic planning. We're going to leverage some of the work that's already been done around that, and also some of the work that's being done at the high school level for the NEASC reaccreditation. The high school's already been doing vision of a graduate work that's required through that. So these are all things that align really closely and we can leverage. But it's also a way for us to get back in touch with alumni and find out how are they doing. What were the successful moments that you had that helped you to be ready for life now? And what more can we do? Other things that we'll be doing will include interviews of alumni and current students, as well as focus groups. We're going to be doing at least 30 focus groups. We're going to be doing a student level survey, educator survey, and community level surveys. And to help us with all of that, we're partnering with an evaluator that really has expertise in this area to help us make sense of all of the qualitative data. You can imagine how much information this is going to yield across these 5 communities. It's a lot. So once we have that information, we have a working team that we're forming that's going to help us make further sense of it. Okay, what are the conclusions? Did we involve everybody that needs to be a part of this process? We want to include people that feel really strongly about things. We want to include people that traditionally don't have a voice. We need to really seek those people out. With that information, we take a step back, and we're going to create a visual portrait of a graduate. Some sort of a coat of arms or an image or a graphic that can be displayed throughout the school environment so students can say, that's what I'm aspiring to. I'm going to graduate with these skills, with these attributes, with these dispositions. And then the last part, maybe the trickiest part, is to work together not only with the working team, but with students, with administrators, to create a plan for how we're going to implement that. So it's the beginning of a process. There's not going to be changes that are happening immediately overnight. This is a multi-phase process. I think the most important aspect of this grant is it really gives us resources to align a lot of the things that are not only happening here in Leominster, but are happening in the other districts. So we can learn a lot from things that are being offered in the other schools. But I think that there's also maybe some similar things that are happening within the district that we can help connect the dots on a little bit easier. And we'll be learning a lot from members of the community. So people, like I said, that haven't had a voice before will be able to really provide input. And we need help from bodies like yours to help make sure that we are engaging as many people as possible.
When you talk about alumni, how are you talking about recent alumni, people who graduated 5, 10, 15 years ago? Like, what's your picture of an alumni?
We kind of have to figure some of that stuff out. So the grant actually runs from January 1 to December 31st. So we're really just in the early stages of getting things up and running. I don't want to make a decision for the team, but I think probably the most valuable alumni information would be the ones that are most recently graduated. But we also probably are going to need to look at who's in the workforce now and what does that look like for them. who is in college, are they persisting, why or why not, and take a look at those stories. Take it from anecdotal to really data-based.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments? I think we're thrilled to have this opportunity. This will be great, and I can't wait to see what the results are.
This has a real nice alignment with the strategic goals that we've set forth of equity, programming, and growth. There's quite a few layers of teams, and by the conversations that we're having, we're not rushing this process. We want to make sure that we get it right because equity does mean all, and so all voices need to contribute with this. And so Lauren is sort of gearing us all up. But we are moving, I think, we're moving seamlessly, but having a January to December timeline with so many teams, it feels like a lot, but we're doing it, and it's good work, it's very good work.
Great, well, thank you, and we hope to hear more in the future.
Thank you, Ms. Lloyd, thank you. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to have the Athletic Booster Club presentation come forward. Rick? Do you need more than 2 chairs, or you're all set?
Would you like to join us? Good evening, and congratulations to all the new members. My name is Dave Palazzi, I'm the athletic director. Come here before you guys tonight and speaking with Rick Marchand, really from an athletic standpoint, we've been trying to do this for a few years, and that's bring about a sole booster club, which is an external entity that's here to support all of our athletic teams to create, the goal would be to create equity for all our sports teams so that all of the sports teams can have the same exceptional experience within the athletic program, assist the Booster Club, assist all of our programs to become more successful. As we exist right now, we do have a lot of good people out there doing a lot of great things with different various teams, with booster clubs, and a lot of parents involved with different teams, but we don't have them for all teams. So this is a way, I think, or I know, that we need to do as a district to provide external services for our athletic programs above and beyond what the athletic department currently does. And I think Rick can speak more to that. He's done a lot of work. A lot of the people here tonight have done a lot of work. Everybody's best interest in all of this are the student athletes in this district to put out, I'll say, a product of pride, respect, dignity in everything we do, and just really to give all of our student athletes, like we do with all the students in all of our schools, the best possible experience that we can provide for them to make them feel proud to be a Leominster Blue Devil, and just go out there and give it their best. And I think, you know, it's really, we're at a time period in our district where I think this is needed, and we definitely need to do that for, you know, the betterment of all our programs. So I just wanted to say that. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them, but I'll pass it over to Rick to kind of explain what he's done.
Thank you, Dave. Good evening. To the new members, congratulations. You have quite a task ahead of you, so hang in there. A lot of people are behind you, so we appreciate you serving on this committee. To the veterans, thank you as well. I'm very pleased to tell you, Madam Chairwoman, that for the past 13 months, a lot of work has gone into coming up with what we believe today is an equitable program across the board for all of our student athletes at Leominster High School, including the Special Olympians as well. What I'd like to do is I'd like to give you a list of the 12 members of the Board of Directors at this point. We have 3 seats that are open. I'll talk about those a little later on. To begin with, I've been the acting president for the football club, which is the transition group for the past 5 years. So at this particular time, just for the sake of being able to move forward, I kind of win by default. So that's basically what happens with that point. I'll also be the athletic director and high school principals liaison, so they're not getting bombarded by other members of the board when there's questions. I'll deal directly with them, so we'll streamline the effort to make sure we don't drive them crazy with questions. Michael Griffin, who is a advocate of youth sports here in town, as you all know. He works for the school department in a degree where he works at the various games. For example, this evening he's in the basketball court taking care of the school board for that. Mike has a tremendous amount of experience being involved with the softball program in town. The Massey League is the president for quite some time, and also the Junior Olympic Firecracker softball program as well. We have James Jarose. Jim is treasurer and financial analyst. Jim is also the financial analyst for the YMCA on the state level. He's currently down in the Boston area tonight at a meeting, a board of directors meeting, as he was unable to attend. He was also one of the former owners of Union Products in the city of Leominster. We have Jim Philbin. Jim was the treasurer for the Booster Club, the football club, and chair. Jim was also involved with the club as a director for about 3 years now. He has children, twins that will be seniors going into this year. We have Jolene Constant, who's in the audience. She's going to be our administrative clerk. I think we all know Jolene for the great job she does with the veterans in the city of Leominster. Lori Bedoin. Lori Bedoin owns 3 businesses in the community. She's going to be our Title IX Compliance and Oversight Officer. We cannot spend a penny until Lori approves it. So she'll be working directly with Title IX and making sure that every dollar we spend is equitable across the board on both sides. So we're very pleased that Lori's going to be taking on that role and responsibility. We have Kathy Taylor. Kathy, a lot of us know with her efforts that her and her husband have with the lacrosse program as well, the boys lacrosse program, was on our football club and cheer club as well, and is also one of the directors. Kathy brings a tremendous amount of talent when it comes down to putting families together, getting volunteers to be able to step up, and parents. So we're going to be making a very strong parent connection with the high school athletic parents. So Kathy will be leading that charge. We have Kelly Marciano. I think Kelly is probably the longest career coach currently in the Leominster public school system. I think this might be close to her 30th year coaching. You're right. And what happened was we wanted to have one coach on board who's also an alumni. She's a class of 1982. And she's going to be working with Lori on compliance for Title IX, but also she's going to be very much involved with inventory. One of the issues that Dave, all the athletic directors have had to deal with, probably going back to Ted Danko, was a lack of space. So what we're planning to do as a booster club is assisting the athletic program in actually going in, bringing in commercial shelvings, getting all the equipment inventory for coach, getting it organized, getting it cleaned professionally, so he has a really good handle on inventory for when the coaches come in of what they actually have. So before we start replacing uniforms, we're going to be taking a hard look at what the inventory happens to be. We're starting that project February school vacation. Mark LaPrade is a strong advertising person with WXLO. He goes back to the days of building Imagination Station and raising over $100,000, which would probably be $300,000 today. Mark is going to be our social media coordinator in marketing, and there are different tricks of the trade, and even though I have a master's in IT, I don't understand anything today compared to what's out there. So he's going to be the guy that really lights us on fire to be able to put the word out there and help us, to be able to form the business partnerships that are necessary. Jen Sabatelli, who's in the audience. Jen has been the guardian angel for the cheerleaders here at Leominster High School. Her daughter is a senior this year, but she's staying on board. She's the one that has worked very hard to be able to bring the cheerleaders to the front of where they are today with the great success, but also all the work that she's done behind the scenes. She's one of the main reasons why we were able to easily bring cheer into the football club. So they finally had a home, and one thing about Jen, she never asked about her daughter, what can we do for her daughter? It's always about what can she do for the club. to the point where sometimes the girls would go out and do fundraising, and they would turn it over to the club, and we would dedicate it back to them. So, you know, we're very pleased to have Jen on board. We have Linda Philbin, Jimmy's wife, that's also gonna be here. She's the clerk of the football club and chair, and she's also gonna be the assistant clerk to help Jolene out with a lot of things happening. So Linda, we appreciate that. Jamie Perler, I believe is a class of 1983, or 84, 84. And Jamie Perler is the clerk of the works. When we need something, he gets the call, he takes care of it. Jamie Perler was very influential working with opposing viewpoints on bringing Pop Warner and youth football together. And it was through his great effort that he was able to finally sit down with everyone, and now we have one youth football league in town that's working out just great. We also have some shared responsibilities. We're gonna be doing fundraising, research and development, that's a team effort. We have an alumni membership drive, that's a team effort. We have sponsor liaisons. Everyone that is a sponsor will have a personal contact on our board that we'll be working back and forth with to let them know what's going on, invite them to some of the events. We'll be forming business partnerships throughout the area. And most importantly, we want to be able to document the kids. And we are going to photograph all teams from freshman through varsity, boys and girls sports, and Special Olympics. Well, I don't know about the videography at this point, but eventually what we want to do is have a nice historical preservation for the school district, and also share the same files with the Historical Society as well. We also have some other people that are involved in here. We have Joe Cowett. Joe is our certified public accountant. He's been great. He's on the payroll of the club. So he also does some work, I believe, with the baseball boosters, and I'm not sure about the other two. But he's been just working really hard to make the transition for us, and we're very comfortable with what's going on right now. We appreciate Joe. Mark Bonanza is going to be our consulting attorney, so we're going to be making sure that we're in compliance with Title IX from the next level of interpretation as well. And then we have Kim and Russ Pahey. As we know, they own Infinite Design. Kim has been very much involved with the SHINE program, helping out the community with the mental health issues. We all know Mikey Wallace is number 22 that we all loved and admired, and that whole story. And we actually have a website right now. It'll be under development at one point, and Kim and Russ will be taking care of that for us. And going down to the, there are 3 empty seats right now that we're reserving. We're looking for philanthropists and high-level people in the business community to fill those seats as an anchor, to be able to get into their network, to be able to attract you know, the people that they work with on a regular basis. So we're not sure if we're going to be filling those or not, but they are available. Going down to the actual purpose of the club, what was interesting is that Article 2 of the Article of Organization on June 22nd, 2011, when it was filed under our athletic director and a new board of directors that started a football club in town here, these are the words from the very first paragraph. And it says basically, to solicit, receive, and administer funds exclusively for the purposes of providing private financial support for athletic and any other worthwhile projects and programs within the Leominster Public School System, period. It's perfect. It gives us a lot of flexibility to help all the kids. You know, it's not football, football, football. So so the Attorney General's office was actually very pleased to see how that was going to play out. So that nothing changed under that article of organization. We also know that the Leominster Football Blue Devils and Cheer Club had a meeting at the Veterans Center on January, excuse me. Yeah, but that was December, that was the wrong date, I apologize. It actually went back to December. We did that before the first of the year. So that was, I think that was our first Booster Club meeting. So what happened was the last week of December, the Football and Cheer Club voted 12-0 to transition the Football and Cheer Club into the Booster Club. So we're actually using that as the foundation for this club right here. The only modifications that had to take place upon application with the state happened to be the new directors, the new clerk, the new treasurer, any any movement in the bylaws, which nothing has changed literally, except for the name of the club. So we have 3 out of 4 documents that have been received back. The 4th one was given a verbal over the phone today. There was a question on the application of whether we were going to be Inc. for incorporated. So our accountant neglected to put that on. So in a conversation with the Attorney General's office, it is now Inc. Forms have been filed. It was approved verbally over the phone today a little after 4:30, and we're just awaiting the documentation to come forward on that. So that happens to be the position we're in. Let me share with you a couple of things just to show you what some of the schools that we compete against do. I think that's important. We're playing Westboro today in the gym. They have a great booster club. I am familiar with the Algonquin one because I do work there on Friday afternoons, and I am very familiar with the Shrewsbury High School one, which I was also a coach and actually went before them when we needed assistance twice. Shrewsbury High School right now currently has $200,000 in their revolving account, with $116,000 in addition to the expenses that they're donating back to the athletic program this year. Their fundraising came from a gold card. Sometimes we've seen teams here actually sell the cards, sometimes at the Johnny Appleseed Festival. I know the soccer kids have sold them for years off and on. There's been kind of a fragmented effort. But what happens is, in one day, all of their athletes show up on a Saturday. They get 10 cards, they go out into the community, and they have to come back at the end of the day. This year, they did $63,000 in sales. Their profit on that one-day activity was $48,000. These are qualified from their person from the board of directors this afternoon. They have a situation that's unlike any others, where they have a field house that can accommodate national competitions in gymnastics. We can't do that here. They pick up another $40,000 for 4 weeks. They get all the gate, and they also get all the concession stand. They hold a golf tournament. Their profit on the golf tournament, after paying for the fees and the food and all the fun, $15,000. They do a few little activities for fun, not necessarily to raise a lot of money, but to give kids a way to connect with boosters. In the next, I think it's just before February vacation, they're actually having bowling for boosters. The kids go, the parents go, they rent a bowling alley, it's 2 hours long. They have all kinds of prizes and things. It's just a good get-together. They'll do about 3,000 there. And they're fortunate because a lot of the teams, like when I was coaching at Shrewsbury High School, was in a situation where I needed the help, we got it. So we would do an activity and actually donate it back to the boosters. So they pick up about another $10,000 in their operational expenses off that, those kinds of gestures. The parents for football, which will remain here, will be doing an activity because they just bought the kids new game uniforms, and they're going to be donating all the money to the Booster Club's general fund. The way that the funds are actually set up, some schools keep all the money, so everybody works, they put it into the general fund, and then they figure out dollar for dollar how they spend it. We're in a position where we want to have a dedicated line item. It's actually committed funds. So what would happen, for example, is that we'll take baseball. Baseball has a club. And what will happen is at the end, when they go into their season, they may have raised $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, maybe even $10,000. They do a great job with that. And what will happen is that fund will be administered from the Booster Club. That's a committed piece right there. So anytime coach needs the money, he gets the money. Same with softball, football, whoever wants to be a part of it, if that's the way we go. The nice thing about what we can do as a booster club is we have debit cards, credit cards, checks. So if a coach all of a sudden needs something, or the parents want to put on a party for the kids the night before and they need $300-400 for pizza and refreshments, they don't have to worry about coming up with the money and figuring out how they get reimbursed. They just call Jimmy Philbin, who will have a half a dozen debit cards, and they just give it, he connects with them, they take care of it. The only thing we need back are receipts. And then we go into the line item where those dedicated funds are, and we just, we make it balance out. That's where our comptroller takes care of it. So if all of a sudden they have an alumni, say for example, we have a professional soccer player and he wants to make a significant contribution to the soccer program, what would happen is that money would be dedicated to the soccer teams. It's a line item for them. So no one's gonna have money taken from them. Nothing comes from their effort. Where we get into the type of things where we even have like the cards, for example, unlike Shrewsbury, they take the $43,000 and put it into their general fund. We want to take it and dedicate it into the line items for the team, so they'll have a little bit of seed money. And the hope, for example, would be, we all know about sport packs, and it's exciting when the kids get, you know, their tops, their sweatshirts, their pants, whatever sport they happen to be playing. And we do know that a lot of kids can't afford it. We know that firsthand. So what happens is by allowing them to have a fundraising mechanism that's a win-win situation for their team, they go out, they sell, they bring the money back, it gets put into their team account. So that's one way of handling that. So we're not looking to all of a sudden take all the energy out of all the existing efforts that are being made to be able to help them. Some of the things the big thing we're really trying to do here is we're trying to break down the barrier of inequity. That's the most important thing. But say, for example, we'll go to the spring, and we have a wet spring, we have snow, we have a lot of rain. The baseball's in a position right now where they can afford to rent a dome. Softball doesn't have a mechanism to do that. So what would happen is we would make sure they both go, and they get their practice time in, so one team's not falling behind. So these are some of the things that we would be doing, you know, as a booster club, raising a lot of money. Nobody in the booster club gets paid for anything, it's all volunteers. You know, we'll be building business partnerships. We'll be working with other organizations in the school department to make sure we're not soliciting or stepping on the toes of the same people trying to bang heads with them. Everybody kind of has their war chest out there where they can actually go to when they need it. They're already taking care of something, that's awesome. This happens to be athletics. We know we have a purpose, we know what the cause is, and we need to get the message out why we're doing it, which is critical. And I think that's what this club's gonna actually do. You know, and we're gonna work with the school department to raise money and support them. We're not going to request micromanaging anything that the athletic director does, nor the superintendent when it comes down to budget time. We just wanna be a group that boosts the existing effort to be able to help and also make sure when we do, we take care of all the kids equally. So that's where we're coming from. I'd love for you to ask 1,000 questions. Go for it.
Who would like to, anybody have questions?
I have some questions.
Sure, go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you for being on the other side of the table with me for the first time.
It feels great to be your
I'm sure it's
constituent.
gonna feel well. So as a parent who has a child on a small athletic team, I appreciate this and I appreciate the time because there has been inequities amongst the sports teams. So seeing that this started, it sounds like January 12th, what has been the process for the monies to be received by the all sports boosters? Have all of the teams turned them over? I'd heard some rumors that there were initially some rumbles that teams didn't want to do it. Have all the teams at this point done it, and what does that process look like?
With respect to you, we haven't had that conversation with them. Because we want to make sure we have the blessing of the school committee to be able to move forward.
Okay.
We've even held off on fundraising until, you know, we have authority to be able to actually go out and do that, some type of memorandum of understanding that we're gonna be the club and this is how it works.
Okay.
So what will happen, it was brought up at our organizational meeting we just held, was we need to sit down with the groups and explain to them how this works and the benefits from going this way. We have the accountant, we have the legal support, we have the Title IX compliance, and we have the debit cards.
So it sort of leads me to my next question. What is the representation for like the Special Olympics or the small teams going to look like? It looks like there's already some committed parents involved, but how are we getting those other parents of other teams involved so that they're having those smaller teams that we want the equity to go to? How are we getting their concerns met?
I'll let Dave handle that, but I'll build on it if necessary.
So very simply, the organizations that are the athletic teams that exist now, it just, the coaches as parents that are interested in fundraising and leading those fundraising efforts. So as the athletic director, I just explained to all the coaches, hey, you need to try to get a parent on your team that will kind of work with the club to put together some fundraising events, or just to basically talk to the club to see what their needs are. So it's not really going to change for the existing booster clubs now, but what it's going to do is it's going to allow girls track and boys track and girls soccer and all of these teams that don't really have a booster club to go to. They just do their fundraising. So now that they're able to go to something that's really established, has really been keeping track of what's successful, what isn't, to try to work with them. So I think it's going to be much better for wrestling, which I know. Just to touch on wrestling, they have a camera now, they have Huddle, this is what this club would be for, that gets installed in the gym. It automatically videotapes girls basketball, boys basketball, volleyball girls, volleyball boys, and wrestling. All you have to do is put the time in the game, and it clicks on, it uploads it onto the computer. Kids can go through, do their highlight tape, and send it to colleges.
You're
So
taking
that-
a job away from me, Dave.
That
Like
alone.
now.
Now you can watch the game, not through the lens of a camera. So those are the types of things. I mean, the school department financially have given us what we need. I mean, we've been able to hire some assistant coaches that were in the contract that have never been funded. So we're good there. This is a program that I think we've needed for years, that's going to have the ability to take all the great ideas from all these clubs and to put them into one big basket and just basically go out to the community who's been giving more money to every single sports team, and just centralize it to kind of take the pressure off the community and allow us to be more successful for all the teams, not just the big teams of football, baseball, and teams that currently have their booster clubs.
Melissa, if I could just build on that.
Sure.
Every sport program has a parent representative that will be actively coming to each one of our meetings.
I'll see you there.
We encourage it,
All right.
we want it to happen.
Great.
And so, we're not gonna say who that's going to be. That's for the parent that is interested to work with her head coach, so the head coach will delegate. So it might be a couple, so it's a tag team. I can't make it tonight, you're gonna make it for me, and I'll make the next one, that type of thing. So that's year round. We're gonna be meeting once a month, once we get into the system.
Right.
And say, for example, a coach has a request. We wanna see the request out of season, so we can work with that parent rep and the coach to make determinations on how we can get to the threshold of putting that money together.
Yep.
Which would be a combination fundraising from the team and then fundraising from the board. You know, that type of a thing. So we want parents involved. We want feedback.
The last thing I'll say, I know we're taking a lot of time, but very quickly, if you think about it, all of the coaches, me included when I coach football, were pretty much at all the meetings, doing all the fundraising
Right.
and coaching. Like, I don't want my coaches trying to fundraise to make their program better. And they all do it. We love Leominster, we want the best program, so I'm not against that. But this is going to allow our coaches to just coach, be better coaches, and not have to worry about all the things that the kids, they want. You know, they want the hoodies and the bags and things like that.
We want to take the pressure off the coaches and let them coach. And also the legal responsibilities to sometimes compromise them. And the need to have to do it as well. Not that the budget doesn't take care of it, but they may have some initiatives that they can come to the board that we can help fund or fund in their entirety if they're not in a position to do so. We had, I had an experience one year where I became the head volleyball coach at Shrewsbury High School 2 days before tryouts. And what happened was I walked into the situation, and it happened to be right after the Olympics. And instead of having the typical maybe 55, 60 girls that tried out, I had 127. And when it comes to volleyball, you need to teach it, you can't teach it, so it's hard to deny at kids, young ladies. So what happened was I went to the athletic director and I said, I need a third team, I need 2 sets of standards and 120 practice balls and uniforms for the next team. So he looked at his budget, he had just started, you couldn't put that initiative money together. So I went to the Booster Club with the girls, and the Booster Club said, now what are the girls gonna do? So my captains said, we're gonna do a bake sale and sell it at Stop and Shop. My mother works there, we're gonna set it up, okay, good. And we're also gonna do a car wash, perfect. So how much are you gonna raise? Well, we're gonna try to raise about $1,000, $1,200. No problem, you do that, you're gonna put the money back into the club. They cut it, so now, Superintendent, you'll appreciate this. The Booster Club was able to get the uniforms done in 5 days, the standards brought in 4 days, and the balls were 2 weeks later. So now, what would it take for the process to go through, you know, the right way to do it from your angle? It was legit with the Booster Club, it came to a little over $15,000, by the way. So we didn't sell that many cupcakes. But the fact of the matter was the kids helped. That was the important thing. They just wanted to have a good faith effort to give back. So it worked out great. So that's what we're there for, you know, to fill those kinds of gaps from time to time.
Anybody else have any other questions? Go ahead, Peter.
So for, I get the line items, you know, each team has its own kind of fund, but what about general donations? Is there like a discretionary fund that the Booster Club will oversee, or is there a formula to kind of, you know, equitably disperse that?
That would be based on a needs basis. So what would happen, say for example, we went out and we raised $25,000 through corporate sponsors, that goes into the general fund. And then as the kids come in, you know, they're gonna say, we need this, we need that, you know, the coaches and the parents. And then what our responsibility is to make sure that when we give $1 here, we give $1 there. So it's an equitable distribution, it doesn't all go to one team, one program, that type of thing. So that's the important part about Title IX, is making sure we make an effort to get to that threshold. Obviously, you can't, when you match up the programs, you could have as many girls playing basketball as boys, that's not a problem. But if you compare football to field hockey, that's a big issue. Because it might be 30 girls, 40 girls playing field hockey, but you might have 80 to 120 kids playing football. So you have to figure out how to be as equitable as you can. And then field hockey equipment would be significantly cheaper than a football equipment. So, you know, you just do the best you can with it, and that's where our compliance comes in, to make sure we do the best we can. So, yeah, our goal is to get to that threshold. Quite frankly, we've got a 3-year capital outlay plan, and that plan is to have $300,000 in the bank, and to be able to meet those kinds of needs on an annual operation. So we have a lot of fundraising to do, and then what will happen is we'll be in really good shape at that point if we can get there. We will get there, folks. We will get there. It's just going to be a lot of hard work and a lot of activities taking place to get to that point. But we need to make sure that everybody in the community understands why we're getting there. You know how we're going to get there, who's going to get there, it's why we're getting there. And I think that's the important message. So, great question, thank you.
Does anybody else have anything, Ron?
My only question is, will this stop, you know how at a lot of these events, for the lack of a better way of saying it, we've had students, and I've had people complain that the students come around asking, you know, will you donate for this, will you donate, will this stop that, so that way the people at the events don't feel like...
Right.
I would say it would be more organized than it currently is, because you have, again, you have programs that have stabilized booster clubs, and you have other smaller programs that are trying to collect money from fans. So that would be, but my question would be, it would probably be less. I can't honestly say it will be non-existent, but I think the fundraising in general will not be so archaic from different teams.
I worry about donor fatigue.
Yeah, well, this is gonna remove.
Cup fatigue.
I see it all the time, you know the things I'm involved with. That's a great question, thank you for asking it, because that brings us back to Jen Savatelli, who's our master scheduler. Everything goes through the school, it is approved by the school. We're not gonna tell anyone what they can or cannot do. That is governed by MIAA and school policy, which we respect. But what will happen is if we know that this team is doing a dine-out at this restaurant on this particular night, it goes on the master schedule, everybody gets a notice on it. So what happens is we don't have everyone jumping down each other's throat, trying to make $1 over the same, the same night, same kind of concept. Everyone has a chance, to share that calendar. And what will happen is if the athletic department enforces, and the athletic director has been quite lenient because he's trying to help the teams to get to their thresholds. But what happens is if you take a look at MIAA, they govern and dictate, actually define clearly how many fundraisers a team can do in season and how many fundraisers parents can do for a team out of season. So what happens is, once we get a handle on how that plays out and put it on that schedule, that's not going to eliminate everything, because we've had kids, for example, at the football game soliciting because they were going to the national championship for youth football. So one mother was selling some lollipops and things like that, and taking up collection. But as far as everyone stepping on your toes, and I know what you're saying, the mayor's draw is full of tickets and raffle tickets, and it's always just, you get inundated with people requesting. So we're hoping that this becomes very organized to the point where everybody knows what each other are doing and can capitalize, and we can also help each other too. I've gone to dine-outs for other teams when I know they're happening. So this is going to be a good way to get the message out to help support each other. I don't know if that helps, Ron.
I was just, because I think every one of us has had people come up to us and why do we have these kids coming up to us at whatever event you want to fill in the blank.
Right.
And people get, after a while, they say, what the heck's going on?
So hopefully this will streamline everything and,
I hope.
all organized.
I hope so.
So we really appreciate all your efforts, Rick. I know you've been spearheading this from the inception. So thank you very much for your hard work and the other hard work from the other people on the board. So we do appreciate that.
Great.
Later on, we'll be taking a vote to approve the Booster Club. And while we're just on Booster Clubs, Superintendent, we need to make sure that like the band Booster Club and other Booster Clubs come before us for permission.
Absolutely.
Because that hasn't happened yet. So thank you very much, and we
You're
appreciate your
welcome.
time and
Thank
all
you,
your
Pete.
energy
Thank
and
you very
efforts.
much.
Thank you.
I want to thank the members that are here tonight as well.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to Panorama Surveys. Yes, Jen?
And Monday, and Maureen Cipolla.
Oh, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Jenny Mundy, Maureen Cipolla. So we're here to tell you about an exciting plan that we have. We're looking to implement student and teacher surveys to help support our strategic plan around equity, programming, and growth. And as the superintendent had mentioned earlier, hearing all voices, we think it's important to hear from the students and the staff to figure out how we're moving forward. So we're looking to, we'd like to quantify the anecdotal information that we currently have. So it's really looking at, it's a needs assessment at this point for us. We are going to be utilizing Panorama Education. They come out of Harvard University. They began back in 2014. Some of the topics that surveys can cover are school climate, grit, school belonging, school safety, classroom engagement, teacher and student relationships, and equity. So that's really short and sweet.
Thank you.
But I mean that respectfully. We're excited to roll this out. We're really excited about it, and we want to hear from, actually the staff will hear, we'll hear back from the staff first, and then we're looking to do the surveys for the students probably the week before February vacation.
So we're looking at student surveys for students who are in grades 3 through 12. We're not looking for the early elementary students. And as Jen mentioned, we have some time on Professional Development Day that we're going to give to the teachers to do this survey for us. So we have a captive audience, so to speak. And then we've already asked teachers in each of the grade levels what the best way to find the students, to get at the students without really getting in the way of their education. So we'd love to have this information by early spring, And that'll allow us at the cabinet level and then also at each of the schools, because the data will be broken out for us by school and by district, so we'll have some
And
data.
by grade as well?
Yes.
Great, and we can expect a report back of
Yes, absolutely.
everything?
Yes. Yeah, we can break it down, depending on our needs. Last year, we had a huge initiative around SEL, and we have continued to grow that work. And having a lens with equity, we really want to have some hard data to support the efforts that we've been making. See if there are gaps, pieces that we're missing. We don't know what we don't know. So we've been looking and working with this company for a few months now to make sure that this survey is tight and precise, and it meets our needs.
Great, does anybody have any comments, Mike?
You mentioned grades 3 through 12. Are you aiming to ask everybody the same question, or do you have, so you're not doing different versions according to the age of the...
Actually, there will be different versions, yes. So we were able to choose the topics at hand, and so we are looking at different versions, but some have the same themes like school climate and school safety. Everybody would have those questions. But not everybody had the same questions to choose from. So like the elementary grades had different topics and different questions just because of the developmental piece of it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ron, are you
Well, I
kind of half raised your hand?
was flipping a coin because I wanted to ask it the right way. With these results that you're hoping to get with this company, are they gonna be able to have projections going backwards and forwards? You know how Michael was asking different classes, you said different answers or different questions, correct? How did they figure that out? Did they, because the way they asked the questions, they were expecting these kind of results versus the other questions, they were getting those kind of results? And what did they see, what did they have with the same kind of school district, or what kind of results did they have? Are you gonna be doing any comparison contrast?
So the company actually has a huge set of data. They provided and then been returned information from a subset across the entire country of school districts. They have psychometrics that they do so that they are doing reliable and valid questioning, which is a little bit beyond our scope, as well as the ability to then take that data and crunch it for us, because that's the job that they do. So they won't be comparing us with other districts. So this information will be for us about Leominster, but we can be very sure that the questions that they're asking, as I said, are reliable and valid and will help us moving forward.
But the questions they ask, and then I'll stop asking. Like, for example, and it's very unscientific, okay? You can stop me anytime. For example, the questions asked at this level, grade level, whichever grade you want to take, they're being asked, as Michael said, one set of questions. The next class, they were being asked another set of questions. They had to figure out how to ask those questions, that company. And when I asked comparison contrast, what were the results they had with those schools over there, and how are they as compared to what's going to be here? Because there's the here, and then there's thereafter.
Right, but every school would have different results because
I realize that, but if they
different
took
climates and
if they
things
took
like
the
that.
school with allegedly the same amount of kids, the same amount of size, whichever way you want to slice and dice it, there must be some results there, because as you said, it's about data.
Sure, and I
Data
think
can be deceiving. I
part of
know
what
that.
I'm hearing, Ron, is about the questions, so, and I think maybe, not going to put words in Michael's mouth, but the developmental level, the reading level, the interaction between the children and the words that are on the page. So the themes will be the same, social emotional learning and equity and their experiences in a classroom, but it will be at a third grade reading level. And so they will be able to interact and understand those words. And then the vocabulary and the reading level will increase depending on the grade span.
Okay.
Great, thank you so much, we
Yeah,
appreciate you
thanks.
coming
I
forward,
appreciate
this is
that.
very exciting, we look forward to the results.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, we're gonna move on to approval of the minutes. We need a motion, Ron, for the approval of December 16th, 2019, and January 6th, 2020.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the minutes from December 16th and also January 6th.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Isabel? Are there any errors, omissions? Go
Sorry,
ahead.
Chris, I'm so sorry. On the
Which one are we looking at?
January 6th meeting, the top says 2019, but it's 2020. I just caught that quickly. And then under secretary in item 3, Brandon is not the secretary. I am. And I don't know who made the motion. I can't remember, but I didn't make the motion for myself. And then at the end,
Maybe
you
Brandon
signed
made
it,
for you.
Brandon. So maybe Brandon made the motion, and that's where there was a mix-up.
I thought we did, no, Brandon, did you volunteer to be
I think you
secretary of
did.
that meeting?
No, I did.
That is not the memory that I have of how that meeting went, but.
No, I did.
All
said,
I did was I asked.
I
who's got
reluctantly
good
said I
handwriting.
would.
No, I think, okay.
Okay.
I think we were talking about it, and then after the fact, why I signed it, Brandon, is somebody told me, you told me, or you told me that it was Brandon who was the secretary.
Oh.
I changed it on the address sheet,
Oh.
but I didn't change it in the minutes, you're right.
So maybe Brandon made the motion
Oh, did
to
I?
That's what I was
nominate
thinking.
Isabel.
Yeah,
Well,
That's
that's
Brandon
what
made
I
the
was
possible.
motion,
Okay,
and
I
yeah,
didn't
there was
change
just
it.
a,
I'll change it.
So those need to be switched.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's right.
But that's all I caught.
Okay.
Brandon, did you have
There-
anything?
Just to note that I won't be voting on the December 16th ones because I was not here.
Sure. Did anybody else have any?
There were two really minor things in the December 16th. In 2E, the last item, that should be largest, there should be a T on the end of that fourth word.
Oh, look at you.
And right before 3, the motion, Suzanne is with a Z, right, not an S?
Yeah.
Suzanne Kohler. Those are the only two things I spotted.
Awesome. All right, so we'll do the December 16th. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Then we'll do the January 6th. All those in favor? Motion carries. Excellent. So at this time, we're going to move on to subcommittee reports. And Finance Subcommittee, Mike, you had a meeting today?
We had a meeting today. Let's see, things we need to know. So, I actually wasn't aware of this until recently. The Student Opportunity Act that is providing additional funding, along with Chapter 70 starting next fiscal year, we are actually getting, apparently they're going to account for that money separately. We're going to be told what Chapter 70 money would have been if they hadn't done that, and then we're going to be told how much extra we're getting. And there are some accountability reporting requirements where we have to turn in a report by April 1st of how we're spending the extra, and there's some guidelines about specific ways they want us to do that. Superintendent Deacon has a meeting Friday? Thursday to get some clarification. The extra money is going to be a very small percent of our total, so I don't anticipate that this is going to cause any problems. It's just a way to account and report things. So we just have to incorporate that into the budget process. We have been encouraged to get public feedback on that extra, just like we do with the budget. The Massachusetts Association of School Committees encouraged us to we should reach out to people in various ways, but one way is to just explicitly invite anybody to come during one of our public forum sessions if they have a concern they want to express to us directly, and there Paula can talk about if she wants. There's other ways we're going to reach out to the public. So we went over that. We looked at we started talking about the timeline for the fiscal 21 budget. We set a goal of having the budget hearing and vote on the Monday, March 23rd meeting, which means we have a goal of presenting it to the school committee on the Monday, March 9th meeting. Those are goals.
You guys have,
It's a goal.
very ambitious goals.
Yes.
It's a goal.
But since we have to account for this piece by April 1st,
Yeah.
my feeling, and I think everybody agreed, was if we figure out how we're accounting for everything, it'll be easy to say that's what that piece is. And if we have to do that piece first and then figure out how the rest of the budget goes around that later, I think that will actually be more complicated. More things go wrong. I know we just upgraded Munis and that's been causing some issues this week. But that's the goal, is to be done by then.
Great.
We did review some warrants.
Perfect.
And Isabel has graciously volunteered to read them to us.
Very good.
All right. From the general fund, warrant 22 for the amount of $534,168.91. Warrant 24 for the amount of $206,453.15. Warrant 25 for the amount of $2,739,545.70. Warrant 26 for the amount of $437,717.86. Warrant 27 for the amount of $2,064,523.36. Warrant 28 for the amount of $97,812.41. And from the grants and revolving funds, warrant 22 for the amount of $47,161.06. Warrant 24 for the amount of $103,902.92. Warrant 25 for the amount of $470,906.91. Warrant 26 for the amount of $52,857.81. Warrant 27 for the amount of $605,929.03. And warrant 28 for the amount of $33,070.34.
So for anyone paying attention, you'll notice that it goes from 22 to 24. 22 was inadvertently left off of our last meeting. We approved 23 at the last meeting. So 22 is a catch-up, 24 honor the new stuff. Finance reviewed and approved these, so I make a motion that we approve these
Do we
warrants
have a
as read.
second? Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Did you have other things that you needed to present for warrants, or was that it?
That's it for warrants.
Okay, perfect. Anything else from the Finance Subcommittee meeting?
I should also report that we did have a meeting between City Hall, Mayor and Comptroller, and School Department personnel about end-of-year report and indirect charges agreement. We got an agreement in principle that there should be an indirect charges agreement, but that it needed to document the way things have been done. School Department has written that up and submitted it to City Hall, and we're waiting to hear back. We learned at the meeting that the actuarial report for the retirement board for calendar 18 shows a loss because the market ended that year down. So the city plan is to take the $5.9 million that's in the reserve line and make all of that as an additional retirement contribution this year and charge 32.51% of that, which is our percent, as an indirect charge. So that technically puts us over net school spending. Those were sort of the highlights.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Is the money still being withheld until that agreement is?
So, right, so at the moment, Chapter 70 and Circuit Breaker has been withheld pending our turning in the end-of-year report. I believe the school department is planning on turning that in tomorrow. So I believe the money will stop being withheld. I'm concerned that parts of the numbers in there are not correct, but it is also the case that DESE has not been enforcing their own rules as I read them. So City Hall's position is they've been doing this the same way every time, and DESE has been not saying it's not okay, so they're doing it right. So that's where we are there.
And the holdup is we had our end of the year report from our piece, done
First
well
week of
in
October.
time. And we've been waiting on the city side, which has been the holdup.
Correct.
So we will submit tomorrow morning.
Okay, great, thank you. Policy, subcommittee report?
We had a meeting this afternoon, and we went over some files, and we stopped. And we also now have the second reading, policy number ADC regarding smoking, reading smoking policy.
So would you like to make a
I'd like to
motion?
make a motion regarding the first reading of the
Second
smoking,
reading.
second reading, I'm sorry, of the smoking policy.
Can I have a second? Anybody? I'll second. Thank you. Any questions, comments? All those in favor? Second reading for smoking? Motion carries. And now would you like to make a motion for the first reading of the,
I'd like to make a motion for the first reading. We're doing it in a rolling fashion.
yep, you're doing all of them.
HF, IC/ICA, IE, IGA, IGD, IHAMB, IHAE, IHAQA, IHBA, IHBAA, IHBF, IHBG, IHAC, I'm sorry, IHCA, IHCB, and IP.
IIP.
IP?
Two I's.
My bad.
That's all right. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Brandon, any comments? All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we're on to, old and new business.
We forgot
Oh,
the
we
other
gotta
one.
vote, I'm sorry, we skipped right over that, I apologize. So I'd like to make a motion to vote on the Athletic Booster Club as presented today.
I'll make,
Go ahead.
you wanna do it, Michael?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept and approve the Athletic Booster Club.
Would I have a second? Great, all those in favor? Opposed, motion carries, thank you very much. That's approved. Now on to new and old business. Does anybody, I have a couple of things, but does anybody have anything that they would like to bring forward at this time? So the couple of things that I have is that, I just wanna make a note that, for subcommittee meetings, please make sure that all members of the committee are aware, of the meetings. Usually, the first, meeting of the month is finance, the second meeting of the month is policy, but certainly finance seems to have a lot more ad hoc meetings given the nature, of the committee, so please just make sure that everybody has enough, notice. Wanted to mention that there's a workshop, Sue said it was the superintendent workshop, it's my understanding it's more of a training on the evaluation process for superintendents on February 13th from 6 to 8 in Westminster. And I would strongly encourage as many people to attend if they can. Unfortunately, I have a conflict on Thursday night, so I cannot do that. But it would be helpful to at least have some members attend because we'll be doing the evaluation before we know it. So it'd be important to just.
What time was that again?
6 to 8.
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday night. Right, and I
You're gonna have to change that class.
I tried.
and I have something Thursday nights too. So Mike and I cannot attend, but hopefully some other members of the committee will be able to. Then to follow that up is in the past, we've kind of had people volunteer to be mentors for new committee members. So I did not know if anybody was interested in being a mentor, so really that's Ron, Isabel, Mike, Sue, and myself. And if people are interested, then I would pair people up. Sometimes it's just nice to have somebody to, run a question by, or, just say, hey, somebody called me about this, what do I do, kind of thing. And for the new members, all of you need to attend a new member training that MASC puts on. So please make sure that you are enrolled sooner rather than later, because that's important. And I've asked Chris to give all new members the policy book, the new member handbook, and copies of our protocols
And the master.
and the Mass General laws, which is a nice small volume of things that I don't know if anybody has ever really read, but every once in a while you have to refer to it.
Christine has.
Yeah, Chris has. So if you need something to go to sleep by, I would suggest you.
Yes.
Very dry. Isabel and Ron and Mike, are any of you interested in being a mentor?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd be very happy.
Yeah.
And I will ask Sue, and then I will assign mentors. If anybody has any preference, you can, email me directly.
Sure.
Okay? So, anything else that we know is coming up, or anybody?
At the end of the last term, there was that issue about the payments, the fees, the activity fees. And we had said that when the new year came in, we'd be visiting it. And we already went over this like a dead horse. So I think it should be to the whole committee, not just the policy, unless I'm wrong. Because they can't, the kids came, they presented their argument, and we did tell them we were gonna revisit the whole thing. And it does have consequences. Do we charge fees or not charge fees? I think we have to relook at that.
So I think my memory is a little different, because we did make a decision not only as a policy committee, but we brought it to the whole committee.
Right.
And everybody, to my recollection, voted on that we would maintain fees certainly throughout this year. We know that nobody wants to pay fees for anything, but unfortunately, that's, sort of where we're at. I know that they, it sort of came back yet again, about not wanting to pay fees, but I think it's very similar to, the busing fees and other fees that we've instituted. And I think, we certainly can have another discussion about it, but it would not impact this year at all, because we've already made the decision.
We said we
In
during
the budget process, right.
Yeah,
And we
revisit.
don't know where our budget is
I
just
just wanna
yet.
bring it up so that way it's part of the cycle, so you don't forget it, because goodly or badly, we did say we were gonna relook at it.
Right, during the budget cycle,
During the
so that
budget
we need to
process.
figure out what our budget is, as
Yep.
well, to make that determination. And again, it really, helps supplement and pay for some of the stipends. It doesn't pay for all the stipends, of the coaches, but that's basically where the money goes to, so to speak.
We bring in such a small amount in the activity fee stipends that
Right. And the same with the busing, but it's still something that
it's
we've
really
done.
not, it's not worth the headache. I think we're, personally, I think for the, I think the administrative cost to oversee the activity stipends is probably pretty close to what we're collecting. So, yeah, I think we do
So,
need
I don't
to-
know that anybody gets paid extra for that, do they?
No, but they're spending time on that they could be spending on something better.
Alright, so we can, obviously we need a little more facts before we can make a decision. So,
Do we know the total that's been collected in activity fees so far?
right.
Let's get concrete numbers, I don't wanna
Okay.
just
Yep.
put something
Right,
out
and
there.
again, Mike, I guess for me, everything's always been on the backs of the athletic folks, and that's not fair, and a lot of them are in other activities as well, but, certainly, it's to be more equitable, distribution for
Right, so
some of these.
I understand that point. On the other hand, the athletics, they get a budget for, we're spending money on equipment, referees, transportation. The other activities, it's the stipend only. We don't give them any budget, they fundraise for those budgets. So I see a difference there. So that's where really my biggest thing is given all the stuff we've had on social emotional learning, I really hate putting any barriers between a student and activity that might get them more involved in their school and make
Although-
them be more successful overall.
I guess you
So-
can tell where I am at, sort of on the opposite end of you, because we do have the ability to waive fees for any student who's not able to, you know,
Right.
financially, if that was going to be a barrier, that's not an issue, because we are able
But
to resolve
I
that.
think that's a hard thing for a high school student to ask.
And there
but-
are children who do not attend because they don't want to admit that.
Right.
But the same thing happens with athletics, and
Absolutely.
certainly there's a lot of kids who are participating who are in the same situation, so.
I'd like to know, personally, I'd like to know.
I guess
if
I'm
we-
looking for equity, and we don't
Yeah.
have equity.
Well, I'd like to know if we could, I'd like the numbers to know what we're bringing in athletic fees and whether we could actually absorb that with the additional funding we're getting. Personally, I'd be in favor of getting fees out of the way between students and participating and stuff. We'd have to be able to afford that, so I want to know how much we're bringing in athletic fees. But I would like that information as part of the budget process.
If there's an informal mechanism too, of, are you seeing kids that are not participating strictly because of the fee?
I think that's probably hard to quantify.
Right.
I mean, I think it's important information, but it would be hard to quantify. So, we've had various presentations, so we can see.
I'm the one that brought it up because.
Thank you, Ron.
The thing, it's been haunting me.
Teasing
We
you.
told them we were gonna
Yes,
look
during
at
the
it.
budget process. Yeah.
We told them we were gonna look, and they made their argument, and I have my own mixed feelings about the fees.
It would be lovely for us not to have fees for anything.
Because when I was
However, I don't think
here
we
in
have the
'69,
financial
I didn't
capability.
pay any fees. I didn't. I don't know when it got started.
Well,
But, you know, like
because we had
Melissa
very
said,
different financial
Well,
situation.
yeah, but I didn't. I was part of the debate club. I didn't pay any funny money for debate club. I didn't pay any money on the football team.
Did the advisor get a stipend?
I don't know. This is '69.
Right. You don't know
I do
that.
not know.
It's-
But it's it's to just bit my tongue again. It's a double-edged sword. It's like a sword of Damocles. It's hanging over our heads. Will it fall or not fall? It always hangs over our head, and there's always consequences to our direction. If we stop the fees, there's got to be a place for where the money's going to come from. Who's going to cough up the money? Is it going to come from the city?
Well, it's
And that's
not.
gonna be
It's not.
You
So-
can laugh if you want to, but I'm dead serious. Where's it gonna?
Well,
Where's the
and
money
I'm
gonna
dead
come from?
serious, it's
Well-
not coming from the city.
Well,
So we would
it
have
has
to.
to come from somewhere. It can't just
Exactly.
come. It can't come just from Cloud 9, and that's why it has to come.
Right, we have to
I'm
see
not
whether we
making
have
this
the
up.
money in the budget process. That's why it's gonna be dealt with in the budget process, right? Because we have to see if we have the money. And it may not be an exorbitant amount of money, but there are times where every penny has counted. And that's why they were instituted, because we were at a point in time where
I
we
know. I
got
get that.
rid of athletics, we got rid of clubs, we got rid of band and all those kinds of things, or we charged people. And that's how we got into this. And trust me, I had to pay for 2 students who were involved, and at that point, you had to pay for every single sport. I had 2 students who played 3 sports, and paid lots of money. And I would have loved to have not had paid money. And they both were on AP, and they both took multiple AP courses and tests, and, and that's unfortunately, what happens. And nobody wants to pay for those fees, and I didn't want to pay for those fees, but you didn't have a choice. So, I mean, I get it, and
I just, yes, I brought it up, and do I regret bringing it up? No, because it's going to be.
Because we're gonna talk about it in the
It's going to
budget.
be a rich dialogue, and I think it's something that
we need more
the people
facts.
out there have to come to the table and express why yes or no. And why, and where is the money gonna come from? They have to tell us where the money's gonna come from.
But they can't, because there's no.
They can. You can't say they cannot. They
The
can
parents
tell.
can't say it's gonna come from the city, because they don't have control over that, Ron.
The people do have the control. That's where you're wrong. They do have they can make their voices heard, loud and clear. It's as simple as that. Where's the money gonna come from? It'll come from somebody, somewhere. It's as simple as that. We can't hide. It doesn't do any good to hide.
All right, we'll do is,
Anyway.
table this discussion until, we do the budget and see where our finances are at. Anybody else? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Motion second, somebody's, awesome. Thanks, guys, and welcome to your first meeting. Everyone survived, it's always good.
Yeah.